Anything. Oh, I know what one.
What are you doing?
I said fine now, stop now.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and this is Faithful Rattos. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about, whoa guys, today I'm going to be talking about rat showing in the UK and how that is relevant specifically to the variety series that I have here on my channel. I really don't know what's going on here. Oh my gosh, guys, I cannot film this video with you like this, just on this stick on my head.
Yeah, it seems fine now. Come on, buddy.
There we go. Is that better? Right. So, I first want to talk about how varieties are sort of standardised here in the UK, and then I'll talk about how they're categorised in the show and how that is relevant to the series that I make on my channel about rat genetics. So the reason why my rat genetics series seems UK focused, that is because I'm here in the UK, and the way that we sort of breed and the way that varieties are standardized and all that stuff is in relation to showing, and showing is a very important tool for breeders to really help better their rats and make sure we are breeding the most healthiest versions of the varieties that are out there. Here in the UK, breeding is very closely tied to showing, and that is because showing is an excellent tool to help ensure that we're breeding the best rats and putting their health and genetics first when it comes to breeding them. A lot of people consider showing to be like cruel and unethical. Sometimes they say for like it stresses them out, but a lot of the time the reason is because people think that, like in certain breeds of dog, that rats are bred in this really extreme way for extreme features, and that's not the case. Actually, at a rat show, a rat is judged mostly on its type and its condition and its build, which is really important when it comes to keeping the animal healthy and well-rounded, and that is most of what an animal is judged on at a rat show. A rat is judged on at a rat show. And then varieties do go on top of that, so colours, fur types, ear types, body types now when we're talking about dwarfs. And it's really interesting how the varieties go from unstandardised to standardised. There's an entire process, I'm going to talk about that in a second. And when it comes to getting varieties standardised, it does have to be significantly different enough to ensure that when judges are judging, that it is recognisable and it is not going to be mixed up with another variety, and that when these varieties are standardised, that judges around the country are familiar with them as this standardising process is going on, so that the standards are well understood by all of the judges, and so that judges can actually know particularly what they're judging. And I'm actually on the judging training program, which is really exciting. And on the program, you have to have a lot of different requirements, and this is to ensure that, you know, along the way you are learning all of these things about how showing works and how judging technique is working and things like that, but also getting to know the varieties and what makes a good rat and blah blah blah. So here in the UK, if a new variety, stop chewing the carpet.
Oi!
If a new variety is being worked on, so here in the UK, you could class things like Silken, Russian Burmese, and Tonkinese are each at a different point along this sort of like being standardised journey. So the first step is to be breeding this new variety and working on it with other people and coming to a sort of consensus and a consistent point for this animal, and then at that point it can have a standard written. Now this is a provisional standard, and this is a separate section to the rest of the show. A rat that wins provisional standard won't be up for things like best in show or stud book, but it can win the section, as it were. And when a variety is in provisional standard, that is when it's being worked on, judges are seeing it, and as a collective, the breeders are working on it, and the judges and standards officer, who is called Anne, is working to find some level of like consistency. And once a good level of consistency, which will take a few years, and depending on how many rats are being bred of that variety, it may take longer. Once a sort of consistent point is reached, then it can move to guide standard, which is halfway between. Guide standard is usually judged at the end of the show, and this can actually go into the best in show and Canwood stud book and all the other extra awards in a way that provisional standard can't. And we are still working on consistency and making sure everything is good, and working on consistency and breeding out issues with the with the variety as this goes on. And guide standard, as with provisional, they can stay in there for a decent amount of time, and then once finally a good consistent point is reached, then it can be moved up into the main show and put into one of the other sections, which I'm going to go through in a second. So there are sections based on, I guess you would sort of like characterized. They started playing the music. So the first section in a rat show would be the self section. I mean, after provisional standard, the first section would be the self section, and in the self section we have things that I would say are black based if you've watched my agouti series, but mainly actually just non-agouti, because some of the varieties in the self section, like ivory, can actually have an agouti base to them. It's just not sort of like seen because of how the genetics work, but most of them are like black based. Then we have the marked section, I'm pretty sure, and the marked section is like markings, so you know, Irish, hooded, capped, Berkshire, Essex, chinchilla, all those. Then we have Russian, and these are all the Russian-based varieties, because as I mentioned in my Russian blue video, the Russian blue gene doesn't just affect colour, it does affect the coat type, and it makes a dense double coat that is shorter than the general rat coat. So in the Russian section we have Russian blue, obviously, but then things like Russian topaz, Russian blue agouti, Russian dove agouti. I feel like I'm missing one, but I can't off the top of my head remember what it is. Then we have my favourite section, which is the shaded section. Now, all of the rats in the shaded section are based on the sea locust, but there are sea locust based rats in other sections of the show. So for example, the pink-eyed white, which is on the sea locust, it's the little c, is in self. And you have cream, which is also on the sea locust, and that is in AOV later on in the show. But these consist of the general pointed varieties like Siamese, Burmese, Wheaton, Blue Point Siamese, things like that, and also Martin and Silver agouti. In the future, I reckon, when and if Tonkinese get standard, it will go in that section. The next section, which is AOV, and AOV stands for any other variety, and generally most of these are agouti based, though not all of them are. So we have agouti, silver fawn, topaz, cinnamon, and then also pearl. Now pearl isn't agouti based. Pearl's a very interesting gene, and it's like an add-on gene that only shows and like expresses on mink, which is very interesting, and that is in AOV, as well as cinnamon pearl, which is like the agouti version of pearl. And then we have Rex and Dumbo are the next two classes. Now Rex and Dumbo are very interesting. A slightly larger percentage than normal is weighted on the variety, so the coat type or the ear type. And when it comes to the show, the class like sections, the classes I guess, are self Rex, marked Rex, Russian Rex, shaded Rex, and then for Dumbo the same thing, so shaded Dumbo, Rex Dumbo, blah blah blah. And those are towards the end, and it's actually more difficult to get everything right on, for example, a marked Rex Dumbo, because you have to get the markings right, you have to get the colour right, you have to get the rexing right, you have to get the ears right, and so there's just more things and more things to get right. And so when you get to Dumbo, it's actually logistically harder to get everything right. And that's the general sort of sections of the show. And then we would do kitten challenges, adult challenges, and then an all-age challenge for each section, and then the best in show challenge, which is like the best rat of the show, obviously. I just want to say, if there are any questions or concerns, or you want to correct anything that I've said in this video, please do. I actually am refilming this video because 2 people noted some confusing things that I said and wrong things that I said. So I am refilming it because I want it to be right, obviously. Oh my gosh, he is chewing at my... Why are you doing that, sir? Stop chewing me. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there are certain varieties that are not allowed at shows. So they are hairless and Manx. And then there is Harley, which is not allowed at MRC. I'm not 100% sure at NFRS. I thought it was banned at NFRS, however, the website doesn't say that, so I definitely could be wrong on that. And then also there's varieties that are not standardised, and you can't show them in pets, but they can go to a show for like handover and things like that. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to say in this video. It's a bit more succinct than the last time I filmed it, which is probably a plus for you guys watching. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the background to how showing here works, because that affects how I talk about varieties. Since I'm UK based, so I just wanted to add that to my series before I go on. I am planning to make a video on some of the provisional standard and guide standard varieties that are like interesting new genes here in the UK. 2 of them, the main 2 that I'm planning on this video, is Dwarf and Silken, because those are both the sort of like main contenders in provisional standard at the moment. Those are the ones that are getting worked on the most, that are at shows the most, and I find them very interesting, and the new genes are always very interesting to talk about. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope it was helpful, and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and like and all those things. And this is my boy Sinner. He is a Silken, if you are interested in a video about Silkens in the future. So yeah, I just want to thank again those 2 people, you know who you are, who corrected me on a couple of things, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!